Cindy is known as a few things, but a joy catalyst, a reinvention strategist, a life mastery coach, and she's also an international speaker and many, many more hats. But those are just a few I wanted to introduce her with. Disclaimer: any of the guidance offered by the podcast host, myself, or the podcast guests is our own guidance. We are not liable for any of the actions the podcast listener decides to do. Now, Cindy, I'd love to know, you are someone who loves to serve, loves to give, help a lot of people, including me and many, many others in our network and your clients and all the people you've helped. But yeah, I'd love to know, what is a reinvention strategist?
I serve a lot of times. I work with women, as you know, and I serve women who have had a season or seasons of suck and to create juicy, succulent lives. And in order to do that, you pretty much have to ditch out on some of the things that you've subscribed to in your life and beliefs that you've had and habits you've created and reinvent a different way to being, right? It's not, and what that usually means is that you really have to get crystal clear on your identity, on who you really are. Because we're not reinventing who you are. We're just reinventing the way you've shown up, and what you've aligned with in your life. And changing some of those things. And so it's super fun. I mean, it's so much fun when you have people that come to you or women that come to you and they're like, okay, my life sucks. All right. And then just seeing, but as you know, things, think, feel, do, have. As we think, so we feel, as we feel, so we do, as we do, so we have. Well, if you look at what you have, well, it's so easy to go back up that ladder and it all starts here, right? Well, what was I thinking to create that? And a lot of our thoughts and everything are just things we absorbed while we've been here on this earth. They weren't original to us, right? It's hearing our parents, hearing people in the grocery store, our teachers, our siblings, our mates. And then we're just like, oh yeah, our pastors, people that are, or people that lead you in that direction in your life. And then now that with the world that we live in, everybody's got a thought, right? We're on a podcast, right? And we listen to these things and then we get to choose what we allow and how we allow that to shape us.
I love that. Yeah, really coming from like the thinking to actually the having, as opposed to the other way around. It reminds me of something I was listening to, going through a bit of material with Bob Proctor at the moment. Well, he's recorded stuff, and he was saying most people are acting from a place of their current results, but their current results are from their normal way of thinking, which makes a lot of sense when you just explain the think, feel, do, have model that we also know from our mentor Joseph. So.
Thank goodness. Well, it makes it easy too to like completely own it. And owning it, like, well, you get to a certain part, and of course, when you're children, your model of the world and your tour guides for this planet are your parents or whoever's the person that's guiding you through those young years of your life. And so we just absorb everything that they say. I don't know about you, but a lot of people on different things that I've been on have heard me say, I feel like I hit the parent lotto. Like, I have these magnificent parents. My father's already in heaven, but and they weren't perfect, but they showed up, but I remember it was really hard for me, I think, at a certain season in my life. And I was a lot older when I realized my parents weren't perfect or didn't know everything or didn't, you know what I mean? Like, everything they didn't say wasn't like, exactly. And again, that's all perception. But as a child, we really believe all that, right?
Absorbing it all. But you're helping people to identify or help them realize they can change some of those thoughts and reinvent themselves.
Percent. Change it and just and hardwire yourself for something different. Like, what do you really want? What are you here to do? Like, who are you really? Why are you really here? Why are you really here on this planet? And then what are you going to do about it? Like, what are you going to do about it? Now that you know, now what? Right?
You, as someone who's got a lot of gratitude about you and a lot of joy, I know you're like a human being, so there's going to be times where, it's going to be emotions are coming in and things like that. Like, how have you been able to embed a lot of like joy and gratitude in yourself? Because I know we're all on different levels of that, right? Of what we're experiencing most often.
Golly, it's interesting. I think had you asked me this even probably 5 or 10 years ago, I wouldn't have obviously the same lens. I actually just I just love period. Like I
Mm.
wake up in the morning and I am insanely joyful and happy. I mean, I
Mm.
wake up, I'm like, okay, great God, what do we get to do now? I mean, it's like that's and that's not manufactured. It just is, it's the way I'm wired. I also would say though, in order to really have that kind of joy, I've walked through things that weren't joyful at all, things that gutted me. And I say that even from a sense of when you say gutted me, like got rid of old even beliefs or other things and just left me there raw. And so that, and I am extremely grateful for everything. We're here on this planet. We get to do our thing. We're still here doing it. I'm grateful for that. You've heard me say this, Johnny, I know, but I wake up and I brush my teeth with Melaleuca cinnamon, essential cinnamon oil toothpaste, and I'm grateful for that because it reminds me every time I brush my teeth, I think about when we were kids and there were these, and some of the people that are listening or watching your podcast will remember this. We used to have like these toothpicks and they were drenched in cinnamon oil. And they were like, I mean, I would chew them till they were splintered because I just love cinnamon. So every time I'm doing that, it reminds me of joyful things, and then as I walk down the steps from where my bedroom is into my main area of my home, every step I'm like, oh my goodness, and I recognize that my feet are underneath me and that there's carpet. I'm very present with that because it just helps me personally to be present in my life and not miss anything. And I'm sure I miss lots of things, but be as present as possible because even being here is such an honor and a privilege that you're making time to hang out with me, regardless of the podcast or anything else. You're in the UK and
Mm.
I'm in the US, you know what I mean? And it's like we're on this technology driven machines in front of us and we get to hang out. And I get to spend time with somebody that I truly love and treasure for however long we're going to be on here. How can you not be grateful for that? Right? Like, what would we give for the people who aren't here to be able to do that? So like every moment that we get to have with whether it's the cashier at the store, there's a reason why we're in each other's presence at that moment. And I want to know what that reason is. And I don't necessarily subscribe to it's because she's scanning, the food that I'm making, that I'm buying, or whatever it is. It's like, oh my goodness, how can I just love on this person and receive from her or him, whatever it is? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Treasuring in sort of the moments. Sounds like it's kind of I don't know if it's an intentional practice or like conscious one you did at first, but it sounds like it's like an unconscious practice for you now, certainly. But I think anyone who's looking to elevate those levels, that's some really good, like treasuring the moments throughout the day of things. I love that.
Yeah, because it's so much fun, right? Like, and no matter who it is. And I tell people, anybody who's listening, call your parents. You know what I mean? Just heal the stuff with your parents, whatever it is. And, because just even getting to spend a few minutes with them, because I know you don't live next door to your parents and I don't live close to my mother. And I think about, holy cow, how much time I haven't gotten with her. And so like and my father who's not here anymore, I spoke with him and he made a conscious effort to call each of us children, and there's 7 of us, like I know for me every day for over 35 years, like consciously. And he would say to me, hey, Puanani, what you making for dinner? And he'd ask me who played sports that day and what went on. And, we would just laugh and he would always have something funny to say to me and just to tell me how much he loved me. And those things, I think for me personally, that's like fuel to my life. Like, oh my goodness. And I get to ride that wave, right? The next moment that I get to have an exchange like this one.
I love that. I love what he did to kind of like reach out to you all and really make time, and that you're sort of like treasuring now. I also like something for me that helped with gratitude was contrast frames from one of my favorite teachers, Peter Sage, where he talks about, when someone's looking at maybe a tough situation in the first place, they perceive it as a tough situation. And yeah, I'm not saying there aren't those. There definitely has been in my life. There definitely has been in your life and everyone's life. But he was like, when he went into prison and wrongly sentenced and was helping people out there, he was helping someone who was like, I've got like 8 weeks for doing this. And he'd be like, well, think about if that had happened and you had like 8 years in here. And they're like, do you know what? I'm so grateful to be getting it. And it was just like those kind of things. Not that that's the ideal place you want to be, but it was like he had an injury in a skiing accident and he was so happy he didn't do anything like too severe, even though he ended up in hospital. And then it's just like smaller things. It's like, oh, I feel like I've wasted the last like year or whatever. But it's like, imagine how much opportunity you've got in your future. You can look back and see what you've got. So that for me really helped.
Absolutely. Like I forget about that. Not necessarily forget. I haven't thought about that with Peter Sage and about the prison thing. And I, even in that, like so many people are already in prison before they end up in prison, right? And how many people are imprisoned already? And the freedom that you get when you look at things from that, you know, lens. Like, are you seeing things through the lens of your wounds or through the lens of your heart? And when you see things through the lens of your heart, there's like this whole world of possibility that opens up. Like, oh yeah, like if I wouldn't have had this, then I wouldn't have had this, or you can dial back to some of your most profound relationships. And yet may have been painful things that you thought really, truly sucked. And they did in that moment, but they led to the doorstep of the love of your life, or to the best job you've ever had, or to the most fun you've ever had. But it's really about owning those things. And I love that Peter Sage does that, because it's just, I totally subscribe to that.
It's just kind of like it's a game kind of thing, and it's like you go on the black squares and you go on the white squares of the chessboard and all that kind of thing. Yeah, and you talking about like some of those moments as well that like help make you as well. You talked about that, like the heart or looking through the lens of your wounds. Is there anything like that you've seen? Because I feel like I've definitely struggled to like connect to my heart in the past, and it's been a work and practice. And I know a lot of people can get caught very in their head, and understandably, of all the things that go on and a lot of fear put out. Is there anything you found as helpful for yourself in staying connected to the heart?
One of the things for me personally, and I know this isn't, I mean, we can talk about many things, but this is one of the first thing that came to mind when you said it, was getting outside, and being connected. Like, I'm Hawaiian and Sicilian, but and you know me, so I'm in 4-inch platforms, like if I'm inside and except in my home or whatever. But when I'm outside, I can't wait to kick my shoes off, and just really connect. And I can feel, and I tell this to everybody listening, if you're outside, pause and be as present as possible. Even if you're in traffic, roll your window down if you can, because you can even feel the pulse of the air if you really connect. And when you can connect like that, it makes it easier to connect in here. A lot of times connecting in your heart is really tough, because sometimes you have to drive through some painful places to get there, right? And you have to be willing to have forgiveness. And sometimes it's a lot easier or simpler, I would say, just to kind of lock it all behind these doors and like, okay, I am connected to my heart, but you're actually connected way out here. And there's like this big valley here that you're not willing to connect with. And, I know that you've had opportunities in your life to like connect in, and it hasn't been fun, to get there. But once you're there, how has it been?
Joyful, exciting place.
I think the other thing too, like people can, a lot of people like to write stuff out. A lot of people like to speak things out. For me, the ocean is a big deal, as we've talked before this, and I spend a lot of time myself, with God. Like I'll just talk and talk like he's sitting next to me, and I sit there and wait for him to talk back. Like it's like, come on, and for me, that's a process for me that I live integratively and all the time. It's not just like, okay, I need something right now, and hey, help out. It's not like that. It's like my relationship with you, and we have lots of ways we communicate through WhatsApp or, on each other's, posts through Zooms and other things, because we live so far away. But if we lived closer, I'd be, let's go have something to eat. Let's hang out. And so for me, that's one of the ways that I really stay connected in here, because I ask, well, what's your big dream for me when you created me? What was your big, why am I such a big deal? Like, and I share that with anybody listening. I challenge you to ask God that, because you're a big deal. Like if you have children, this even from some of the children you've gotten to spend time with lately. If you have children, it's every one of them's a big deal, right? No matter what they're here to do and how they're going to change the world around them.
We just forget as adults sometimes.
We do forget.
For like the individual, I'm just thinking, like going back to the reinvention. strategist and your role in that. I love that you're helping people in that. Some people, I've definitely been there, been caught in the whole, I'm self-sabotaging all the time, whether that might be in money, might be in relationships, might be in health, whatever area. And they're like, I just don't feel like I can change. I'm just so stuck in these patterns. What could be a starting point for them, do you feel?
What you just said, I don't feel like it. Okay. So if we're thinking it, what you have, you did something to have it, you felt something to do it, but you thought something to feel it. So what were you thinking? Where are your thoughts? Let's dissect your thoughts. Like with some of my clients, I tell them just get a composition book, just a little notebook. I want you to write down every single thing you think. Now, if you're married or you have kids, don't let anybody see it. Don't let anybody see it because you don't want them to see it. But, and especially if you're at work, keep it with you for an entire week. Every thought you have, write it down to where you don't even have to look at the page. And then I want you to look at what you're thinking.
Wow.
And that's where we start. It's pretty powerful.
I love that. That's a very powerful practice I've never heard. It makes a lot of. There was a guy I learned from actually in the Danny world who's a wordsmith, and he was one of his teachers, a guy called Mark, been on the podcast as well. But he was, he's a master with changing your words, and having one word in a sentence could change your entire feeling and meaning to a sentence. It was like, for example, I think he said, how could, like someone was talking about maybe their father or maybe an ex or something, some woman was, not in our group, but he's using the example, how could he do this to me? And then they changed the word from me to himself. And it was, how could he do this to himself? And they were like, oh my God, the poor. And there's the forgiveness and not straight away, but like the empathy and the wow. I see why they're in that pattern. It's just, so I can see what you mean by like writing stuff down.
100%. And I'm 100% where that is, because every single word that we speak has a frequency to it, and it's intended to create something, every word. And so when you think about that, it's when you said, how can he do this to himself, is what you said, right?
You have to reframe as opposed
Right.
to he.
And so here's another reframe. And while you said that, I thought, or how could he do this for me? Talk about a huge reframe. Like if something was horrible, but what is this doing for me and his role in that? How could he do this for me? Especially if you're in a relationship and you know this person at some point in some part of the relationship loves you or loved you or whatever, and is acting out in a way that's causing you a lot of pain. If you want to spin it, for your own advantage, it's like, how is this really for me? What is it? How can I own this? Because even it's easy, right, in relationships, and you get in these patterns and these habits, and then you start blame. And like you said, how can he do this to me? How can he do this again? How can he, cheat, or she cheat again? Or how could they lie to me again? Or how come they're doing, whatever that is, hide this money or whatever the stuff is. And yet you're there, present in it. Well, who keeps you there? Why are you there? Like when you can own your presence in it, things change. And you can start, like you said, because you've known me long enough to know too, like the word thing is my thing too. So I love that. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because when you start to shift the words and the tone, the frequency that you're speaking from, whole different ball game. Even like the best way to practice that is with yourself in the mirror, right? To start it there, and then with your children. You've had a long day and they're so excited to see you when you get home, and they're all over you, and you just like, like you just want to, and then your mate is so excited to see you, but they've had a day, and all of those things. But when you just take a pause for a second and just connect with the fact that, oh my goodness, like if it's your child, I actually created this little being in front of me, or I brought this little being into my world, or I adopted this child, or I get to love this child. And you connect into that for a minute. It's like, then your words, your tone, your everything can shift pretty simply. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just being aware of the words. I'm really liking the exercise of writing everything down. I'm going to start doing it. So thank you for crazy.
Let me know what you think.
We're all human beings. So it's always, there's never going to be 100% like positive words and sentences in the head. So it'll be great to see. that in practice. Cindy, I want to ask you a particular question around the balance, and I'm kind of forming the question as I say it. So around the balance of processing emotions, but not being caught there. Because I know some people could hear, sometimes when they hear a joyful person like yourself or someone else, they're like, well, what they saying, just like dismiss my emotions and don't feel them, even though I've had this really hard thing. But I've also seen people being caught, and I've been there myself, being caught up in like stories of processing too long. And actually, I had a guest on yesterday, and she said people can get caught in healing too long, and the healing becomes a defense mechanism for doing anything. So I'd just love to get your steer on how you find that balance, or how you help your clients find that balance of processing what they need to, but also moving forward with their life.
I think one of the biggest things is forgiveness, like even for yourself. Like, and I would say, I mean, your audience doesn't, unless they saw our other podcasts. I mean, I have three sons that are already in heaven. One, as you know, Mana, who, left this earth when he was 36 with 5 children and a beautiful marriage and all of those things. And twice in my life, I was almost 6 months pregnant and miscarried. And those cells, as they're finding, actually stay in your body for your whole life as a mom, so you have the opportunity to feel that, you know what I mean? And then of course, in that same year, and I'll use this as an example, because it's actually what really helped me to be able to be joyful all the time. I think I was hardwired, and I came into this earth with a lot of joy, and I had parents that exuded that. And I don't even remember, except for maybe one argument with my sister out of 7 kids, any arguments in our home. Like, you know what I mean? So there was like that kind of wiring, right? Which I know isn't normal for other homes. I get it. But what happened, and what helped me during these seasons of things, is I allow myself to feel it. I allow myself to sob my guts out if I need to in a moment. And I also have learned to observe it, right? And so I can, and I can hear Joe Dispenza right now, awareness, like I can hear his voice, but I've actually learned to kind of just take a step back and take a deep breath in the midst of it. And then I ask myself, okay, Cindy, this is true. This happened. This is real. Your child's not here, or, all of the things, whatever the situation is. It doesn't matter what has tripped your wires in those moments. And how do you really want to feel? And right now, what I did, and what the thing that you and I both know, the stop technique, but I did that early on in this, where I would literally, I'd feel something, and I got to a place where I can cause myself to feel it on purpose so I could hardwire myself for this. But I'd feel it, and then I would literally out loud in my home, and once in TJ Maxx, I yelled stop really loud, scared myself even. But I just yell stop, and it does create a scotoma, and I then would fill myself with love, like literally. And so for me, whether that's scripture that I love, or whether it's words of things that, and I speak it out loud. It's not just something that I do in here. And what happened for me, and for me, it was a download of really big gratitude. What are you really grateful for? And so like, I'll use my son or my father as an example, or any of the, that kind of pain that you feel. What was I really grateful for? Oh my gosh, I got to have my son for 36 years. Oh my goodness, during the process season of my divorce, I actually lived with him before he left this earth, and we didn't even know he was going anywhere. I mean, it's like, I look at those kinds of things, and I do it because I've had to, because it's healed. It's really helped to heal me. But in those moments, it actually transforms that grief and sorrow back into joy and gratitude. So now when those kinds of things come up, I allow whatever I'm feeling. I don't care where I'm at. I've been in Costco, and I think you've heard me say this, the first Christmas after my son left, and I actually had like 8 people, as you know, that left this planet that I love dearly in 7 months. And every one of them was unexpected. There was nobody that I planned on, I mean, nobody had this long disease or anything. And sure, my father was almost 90, but he was kicking it, man. He was great. So, I mean, it wasn't expected. However, I remember I was at Costco, and it was Christmas, and I'm thinking, okay, this is the first Christmas after a lot of this has happened. Cindy, you got this big family. I have 9 grandchildren, and I have other kiddos. And so let's do what you can for Christmas. I'm standing in Costco. And if you've been in a Costco, they've got like the tables of clothes and everything else. And I I looked and there was like this jacket, like a Carhartt jacket. I'm like, oh my gosh, that would look so great on Mana, my son. Put it in my cart. My dad loved dark chocolates. And I'm looking, there's dark chocolates. Holy cow, dad would love these. Stick them in my cart. And then I'm standing where all the clothes are. And I just stop and I have a realization like, Cindy, they're not even here. It was such a habit, right, of that. And it occurred to me they weren't here. When I put them in the cart, I wasn't even thinking that. I literally was like, oh my gosh, this would look so great on Mana, on my son. And I just started to weep, like in Costco. I had to buy a stupid men's t-shirt I didn't even need because I was using it to wipe my tears, blow my nose. And I wasn't loud about it, not on purpose. If I needed to be loud, I probably would have been, but I wasn't. I was just like literally like sobbing in Costco. And I don't know how long it took. It could have been 30 seconds. It could have been 2 minutes. I don't know. When I was done, I just wiped my face and I hung the jacket back up and I put the thing and I was okay. Like it didn't stick. Yeah. But I know I just kind of gave you like a few things at the same time, but those are the things I've done that have gotten me to that lens of joy. So when things happen that suck, like truly suck, I have like a 90-second window now where I literally feel it and I feel it. Like I've gotten my body to feel it, everything. And it's almost like I feel it and then it goes and I'm on this highway and then I'm like I take the joy exit. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're allowing yourself to, another Peter, a similar exercise to Peter, of allowing it to go through the body. So it's not, yeah, it's not living there, but it's allowing your body to process the emotions in the body. Joe Dispenza also talks about your body is the subconscious. So it's like the emotions are living there if they're stored up, but you're not letting them go there and neglecting them. You're allowing them to process through the body whilst not living there. And then you're going into your joy can appear. I found that like so many times when it's just like, oh, I'm feeling a bit, but I'm happy to admit it as a man. Like, even out of like nowhere, like I just like I feel a bit lonely and sad. I was like, oh, I need to feel this, and then I put on some music. It's like sadness, and I cry, but it's like I don't know, like a minute later, it's like joy again. It's just so insane. It's sometimes not explainable what it was, but maybe it's something the body needed to experience. It was something the body needed to experience. So I love what you're doing about processing it through the body and then going back to your natural state of joy.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, and it's just feedback, right? When that happens, like what you just explained. It's just your body giving you feedback. Oh, you've got this sadness and sorrow stuck here. And who knows when it was there? Could have been in the womb, could have been before that. I mean, who knows? But it's there. And then when you allow it to happen, then okay, we're better now.
You're analytical about it, which as a recovering left brainer, you you know, and there's many of us like that. It's yeah.
Right. What is this? How come it's doing this? Let me take it apart.
Let's research it. No, it's just feed,
Right?
just feed.
Let's Google it. Let's get all of them. Claude, AI, Grok, Chat GPT. Let's see what they all have to say about it.
Definitely. No, I love that,
I'm just
Cindy. No, Cindy, thank you for what you've shared with us. We could speak for hours, and I've appreciated everything you've shared today. I know you've got a ton more support you offer, resources, services that you're doing to help people transform, reinvent themselves. So we'd love to know as we kind of wrap up today, where is the best place for people to find you? And is there maybe a final point you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, well, to find me, it's easy. I'm on Facebook, Cindy Gould, and you'll see my face. You'll know it's me. Or on Instagram, I'm on there, and I am Cindy Gould. So you'll see that. And that's an easy way. I answer my own messages. So please reach out if you even have a question or anything, or it's interesting, but I just heard loud and clear, or if you need prayer. So I'm throwing that out there as well. You know, I would say this as a final point. Out of everything in the world, you're the most magnificent. I mean, you know, love yourself. Love you, like be crazy in love with you. Like the fact that you're here. I mean, I look at you, Johnny, and it's easy for me to love you. Like you're easy to love and it's fun, you know, and I'm so appreciative of our relationship and of how it's grown over the years. And but I would say do everything because the thing that hinders all of us, it isn't anything other than fear. And get over yourself. Like get over the fear and stand at the edge and just dive off and know that, you know, like if your wings aren't going, somebody, you know, if you get a bump or bruise or something falls off, somebody will swoop in with some, you know, crazy glue and glue you back together, or some duct tape and tape you back. It's like, just do all the things that you were sent here to do, and just stay in alignment with that assignment, and just walk out what God's purposed you to do. And you're going to live in complete and total joy when you do that.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you, Cindy. So you can find Cindy's links to her socials where you can get in touch and out more about what she's doing. Links in the show notes below. So a massive thank you for coming on again today, Cindy.
Thank you for having me. And again, I know you asked me this, and yes, I do one-on-one coaching, and yes, I speak at events and things, but I am really interested in people. So I would love to hear from whoever wants to. But Johnny, you know what? You do such a beautiful work, and I am so eternally grateful that I get to be in your world, and that, that we're such dear friends. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. No, that concludes our episode for today. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.